Hello, everybody. Here we are, step 2. Now, if you haven't watched step 1, please close this video and go back and watch step 1. Okay, this is step 2. Now you're going to gather your data. And what you'll notice is that I'm going to move this out of the way. There we go. What you'll notice here is you have your state capitals, and then down here you have your driving directions, right? So let's turn off this layer, and the way to turn off the layer is to simply click on the box, and that layer goes away. I don't need to see the state capitals. When I look here in my driving directions, I click on these 3 little layer options, and I'm going to look at step-by-step directions. When it comes up, it's going to tell me how many miles this layer is. I'm going to need to write this down as layer 1. So I would write layer 1, 5,058 miles. Close it out. Then I would go to the next layer, and I think you guys can figure out what layer I would call this one. I would call this one layer 2, and I would write 3,462 miles. That's in those 10 stops, that's how many miles I drove. Okay, and then I'm going to come down. I think you're catching on here. And did I come down far enough? I think I did. I'm going to look at these step-by-step directions. 2,443 miles. I'm going to write that down for layer 3. My next set of directions, the 3 dots, step-by-step directions. 1,926 miles. That would be layer 4. Layer 5 would be, you'll notice it takes a second to repopulate. Drive 1,737 miles. Layer 5. Close it out. And then my last layer, and you have to have had 6 layers. If you don't have 6 layers, you missed one. Look at my last layer, and I see 1,530. I have those. I also am going to write down, I'm just writing this on a piece of paper to use for later. I finished in Iowa, and the capital of Iowa is Des Moines. Okay, so I have all that set. Now I'm going to take that information that I wrote down, and I wrote it down here on a piece of paper, and I'm going to open up the form. You will get this form. You need to type in your name. You'll need to type in layer 1. So the miles I drove were 5,058. Layer 2, 3,462. Layer 3, 2,443. Layer 4, 1,926. Layer 5, 1,737. And my final layer was 1,530. Now, let me ask you a question. Will my numbers be your numbers? Say no, because this is my map. My map is different than your map. Might be close here and there, but your numbers will be different than these numbers. Then the last thing it asks me to do, let's move this back over. Second to the last thing it asks me to do is the total miles. Add up all 6 layers. I'm going to do some math, get 16,156 miles. That's the total miles that I drove in all 6 layers. And then I have my link to get to find out how much the flight is going to cost. So click on Google Flights. I'm going to open up a new tab. Here, it'll say North Bend because it's pulling your closest your closest location, and that's you're not going to be in North Bend. You're going to be in Des Moines. And you'll see that it starts, as you start typing, it says, oh, hey, do you mean Des Moines, Iowa? I do mean Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, so pull that one. Tell it you don't want round trip. You only want it one way. And you want to go to Honolulu. You start typing it. And you're going to want to pull the one that has the little airplane by it because that's the actual airport. So you pull the airplane. We're all going to leave. Everybody is going to use, click here on the calendar. Everybody will use a date of June 11th. Okay, so everybody will use June 11th. Click done. It'll take a minute and some prices will populate. You will see. You're going to have to ignore the travel restricted about COVID-19. Again, we're all pretending like this isn't really happening. We're really just, this is a virtual trip. You decide which one of these flights do you want to take. Now, you might want to say, hey, I'm taking the cheapest flight I can. I'm not going to spend $383. I'm going to spend $297. That's way better. But this flight takes 29 hours. It has 2 stops in it. Do you really want to save that money? Or do you want to be able to get there in nonstop? Is there even a nonstop? There isn't a nonstop. So you're going to want to do 2. If you finished in Iowa, you would have to go with 2 stops. Okay, so you're going to have to negotiate with yourself which one of these makes the most sense. Once you know that, let's say you said, you know what? I'm doing the one with the least amount of time, $383. I would come back to my form and type in $383 and submit it. That's it. But make sure you keep the piece of paper that you wrote everything down on. Okay? You will be able to go back in and look at your responses on the form, but it's easier if you just have them written down so that you can use them for the step 3. Okay, but again, this is step 2. Okay, once you submit it, you're ready for step 3. Have a good afternoon. Step 3 is coming up next.